Welcome to my PowerPoint about actively bad cards. So what is an actively bad card, you might be asking? I'm classifying it as cards that just lose you the game if you play them. They're really bad cards that have a lot of conditions that need to be met and aren't worth playing, and even if you do get them off, they probably still lose you the game for having tried to make it work. The number one, the first one is for Death Knight, and it's the Scourge. Not only is it incredibly expensive, it's 9 mana, and it's a double unholy, so you can't really play it anywhere because, well, the only double unholy decks are even decks. Crazy, I know. So to be playing the Scourge, you already have to be making your deck actively worse, or you take it off a Discover effect. But when it first came out, the pool of undeads was not that big in Standard, especially when you had Bone Lord Frostwhisper in your pool. Bone Lord Frostwhisper, if you don't know, the rest of the text doesn't matter, but after 3 turns, you lose the game as its Death Rattle. The Scourge, of course, 9 mana spell, fill your board with random undead. If you hit Bone Lord Frostwhisper, you lost the game. Insane card. Legendary card, incredibly expensive, terrible on top of the fact that it also loses you the game. This one's not even the most egregious. I just wanted to shit on the Scourge for a little while. It's kind of why I put it here, more than anything else, because this card's really bad. It's really, really, really bad. Then we have Demon Hunter. So, Vengeful Spirit was printed in Forge in the Barrens. It's a 4 mana, 4/4 undead. It wasn't undead at the time, of course. With Outcast, draw 2 Death Rattle minions. On its own, that doesn't sound that bad, right? Except for, when you think about it, this is a terrible card. It's a bad card. It is a bad card, objectively. It doesn't help with the fact, though, that this card actively makes your good cards worse. Any card that, involves Outcast cards has this in its pool. So, Illidari Studies, which of course, 1 mana to discover an Outcast card, next one costs 1 less, has its pool fucked up by this card. It doesn't help that Illidari Studies is a really strong card that saw significant amounts of play. So, Vengeful Spirit being in the pool, especially when the pool was really, really small when it first came out, really hurt this card. Having to see Vengeful Spirit multiple times whenever you're playing Illidari Studies really did make the card, significantly worse, considering the fact that, at the time, most of the options from Illidari Studies were really good. So, not only was Vengeful Spirit a bad card, but it actively made your good cards worse. I'm gonna be real with you, Demon Hunter and Death Knight don't really have cards like this. This is more of an old Hearthstone problem where older expansions, they gave cards that actively lost you the game. These two aren't technically on the same level, but I wanted to talk about them on their own, and I didn't really ever have an opportunity to talk about these cards. So I thought that throwing them in this video here just to talk about the fact that they do actively lose you the game. I will be honest, they're just terrible cards that actively make other cards worse. Sorry, I just wanted to talk about that. So let's get to some cards that actively do lose you the game. Starting with Astral Communion. Astral Communion, of course, is a 4 mana arcane spell. It wasn't arcane at the time. That is gain 10 mana crystals, discard your hand. I mean, the art is awesome. Yeah, discarding your whole hand for just gaining mana is not worth it in Druid. You don't have cards that synergize with being discarded like you were playing in Warlock. You don't have cards like Magnifying Glaive that you can set up preemptively for when you discard your hand, like your Demon Hunter. Yeah, Druid has a lot of card draw, but it's not hyper efficient card draw. It's more, actually, it's pretty inefficient, all things considered. For a long time, one of Druid's best draw options was Branching Paths, which is 4 mana draw 2. A lot of Druid card draw is efficient, mana wise, because it's tied to secondary effects, right? You'll be getting armor, you'll be getting, I don't even know. Mainly it's armor. Actually, it's almost always armor. So it's really awkward when you play a card like Astral Communion because well, I can draw some cards, yeah, but how? People people have actually experimented with Astral Communion with Due Process when it was 2 mana, and it wasn't good, don't get me wrong, but it was at least something you could do. Now that Due Process is 4 mana, you can't even do it anymore. It's so funny. Astral Communion is just the epitome of a terrible card. It's not the reason I made this video, but I really want to talk about the art on this card. Look at how beautiful this card looks. I know people like to talk about how new Hearthstone cards look bad, all blah blah blah. And sure, I guess if you don't like it, you don't like it, but God, dude, look at Astral Communion. Look how beautiful this card is. Then we have Hunter. So this Monkey Business actively loses you the game. I'm so real right now. So the only way to make Monkey Business work is to play Patchwork Pals and Awakening Tremors, which, you know, usually you're fine with that, right? Usually you are fine with that because they are good cards. The issue is they are gigantic negative tempo losses to be playing those cards, just to be able to set up your 4 mana +7/+7 card that will also overdraw you a card if you play it on turn 4. Yeah. So you have to have a target to get it to work. You have to have 2 hyper-specific cards to get it to work that are gigantic tempo losses. And it's not even that great when you get it to go off. And if you play it like later on in the game, it gets worse as time goes on. Because if you have less cards in your hand, it just becomes 4 mana, get 8 bananas. So 4 mana +12/+12. How unbelievably terrible is this card? I mean, this card just like doesn't function, like genuinely does not work in Hunter. I don't know what they were thinking with Monkey Business. Like, fundamentally, it goes against how Hunter plays the game. I don't know about you guys, but maybe the class that's been known for having the worst card draw in the game for years and years, and since the game literally came out, probably doesn't have an easy time keeping its hand full without also taking gigantic tempo losses, which, guess what? It also can't afford to do. Monkey Business just doesn't function. Straight up does not function in the terms of Hunter as an aggro class. It doesn't. And there's no reason to be playing this in a slow Hunter deck because it's also just bad there, right? So what are we doing? What are we truly doing with this card? It's actively losing you the game to be trying to play. I've probably put in like 50, 60 games of aggro Hunter trying to make Monkey Business like not the worst card in the entire deck, and every single time that I have a turn where Monkey Business looks okay, it's like, okay, well, what if I just like didn't play it and I played like other cards instead? And it's just truly terrible. Then we have Mage. So although Trick Totem is like significantly better in Shaman, in Mage, this card is just like actively going to lose you the game. You play it on 2, you buff your opponent's minions, you deal damage to your own character. Yeah, you could, or you deal damage to your own minions. It's just actively losing you the game. It's not a card where you can just like buff it with your 0 mana spells to make it like actually threatening on board, and then because you also go wide, you have a higher chance at getting buffed, right? That's how Shaman can make use of it. It's not great in Shaman, don't get me wrong, but Shaman can at least make more use of it than Mage can. When's the last time you saw like a super wide aggro Mage deck that wanted a card like Trick Totem to begin with, right? They don't exist. We haven't had like an aggro Mage deck that actually existed in Wild in a long time. We've only just recently had this new Rayla Mage, new Flamewaker Mage that's come out. Now, obviously, if you ran a Trick Totem in that deck, you would grief yourself. Random 3 or less costing spells are really bad. There are so many that lose you the game. There's so many that win your opponent the game. It's truly a terrible card. Like, I don't... cards like this is more like what I'm talking about, where like if you play this, you're probably losing. You probably have actively lost the game. You could give your opponent draw, you could heal your opponent, you could give them damage, you could do so many things. There's so many horrible spells for you in so many situations that it's unbelievable that people would ever run this card in their deck. Then for Paladin, I have to talk about the Roscon's Rumble cards. I'm so sorry. I have to talk about them. So, although the call was like pretty good and Wild because of Mountain Giants, we're talking about Standard right now. So, for Standard, these cards are unbelievably terrible. Unbelievably bad. Blood Claw is a 1 mana 2/2 weapon that deals 5 damage to yourself, so it's -1 damage overall, because you deal 5 to yourself and only 4 to your opponent's face. Terrible. Zandalari Templar requires you to restore 10 health to get to work. And, well, newsflash, you have to be taking damage to be able to heal health. So you have to be damaging yourself with the Call and Blood Claw, which are bad. They're just bad. Because guess what? If you're already playing healing cards in Paladin, you're probably wanting those healing cards to heal yourself from when your opponent deals damage to you. So why would you want to deal damage to yourself to make it so your healing cards don't actually heal you enough? That's why this entire package has failed. It's too specific. It's not flexible. It's bad. It is bad as well. Overall, like if you were ever trying to make this package work, you're actively trying to lose the game. Just straight up. Running Blood Claw literally made your deck worse. Like, I don't know what more to say. The Roscon's Rumble package for a lot of classes was terrible, but like this heal package that they put in Paladin, unbelievably terrible. Truly terrible. It's so bad. Like, I don't know what they were thinking. The call, like, only makes sense in the context of, okay, well, I have a shitload of healing, or I have Mountain Giants in my deck, which both didn't exist in Standard. Neither existed in Standard when these came out. I don't know. I'm so confused. I don't get it. I'm using a video like this to talk about cards that, like, kind of really don't make sense, like, at all. So, like, that's why I'm talking about Blood Claw and Zandalar Templar, and I'm talking about, like, Trick Totem, and, like, I get that some cards are, like, not meant to be good, but why are we printing cards that actively hurt you? I mean, in the literal sense, like Blood Claw. At least in, like, I think it was Nathria. We had, like, Pain Paladin cards in Nathria, right? We had the 1-mana 2/1 Divine Shield that would deal damage to you, right? But that card was, like, positive on tempo and didn't deal that much damage to you. You had the 3-mana, I think it was 3-mana 3/3, or sorry, 3-mana spell, take 3 damage, give a minion +3/+3 in Divine Shield. That is insane as a payoff compared to taking 3 damage. Compared to Blood Claw, so terrible. I mean, this whole video is kind of just because I want to talk about Surrender to Madness. I'm going to be so real with you. Surrender to Madness does lose you the game. The other cards, yeah, some of them you could make the argument, oh, you know, maybe they don't specifically lose you the game. If you play Surrender to Madness, you lose the game. You just do. 3-mana Shadow Spell, destroy 3 of your mana crystals, give all minions in your deck +2/+2. How awful is this card? Maybe if it gave your hand, deck, and board +2/+2, it could have, like, a niche, as, you know, just 3 mana, give your board +2/+2, win the game, right? As a, what's it called? Savage Roar. You know, probably it wouldn't be a great Savage Roar, because Savage Roar hits your face, but it would still be a Savage Roar, and that would be okay. You know, it wouldn't be terrible, but it doesn't. It only does it to your deck. Do I need to explain how destroying 3 mana crystals and spending 3 mana to give all minions in your deck +2/+2 is not worth it? We have the card Embiggen, which is 0 mana, give all minions in your deck +2/+2, but it makes them cost 1 more. That is significant. That card has seen genuine meta play and has been a very good card when it was. Surrender to Madness? What is this card? Surrender to Madness is like one of those cards that really makes you have to step back and be like, what the actual fuck are they doing right here? Like, genuinely, what are they thinking? Does this card make sense to be played in any deck ever, or was it just made because, like, maybe they needed a 10th card in Priest, and they're like, oh, we can't think of an epic, so let's print this card. Like, that's the only thought process I could think of, right? They're like, oh, we need something real bad, but we just want to make the expansion suck ass, so let's print Surrender to Madness. Fucking unreal. Then we have Rogue. Okay, I'm gonna be real with you for a minute. I scoured up and down the Rogue library, thinking that it would be a cinch to think of a Rogue card that also fell, like, pretty well in the the parameters of this video and the talking point I'm trying to bring up. But Rogue really, I mean, Rogue is just so much better than every other class. I think you guys need to actually take a serious look at the Rogue class and compare it to other classes. Rogue cards are fucking insane, and, like, if they just were, and if almost every single Rogue card was in another class, they would see play. Even Rogue card, like, even bad cards, like, almost every card in Rogue would see play in another class. How unbelievably broken is this class? So let's talk about the card that's probably one of the worst Rogue cards, and Mount Hejal Imposter. It's not only the most expensive of these really terrible imposter cards that came from Caverns of Time. There's a Mage one, which is 2 mana and give it +1 spell damage. There's a Hunter one, which is 3 mana and give it poisonous. But the Rogue one is the most expensive because it's 4 mana and 4 drops. And it gives them Stealth, which is just worse. Stealth is worse than poisonous and +1 spell damage, especially when you consider the cost that is assigned to them. I mean, I'm going to be real, I could have just skipped over Rogue, because Rogue really doesn't have that many cards that actively lose you the game. Like, yeah, you could have said Myra's Unstable Element actively lost you the game, but that card also was genuinely a meta, super powerful card at one point in time, so if I put that on here, I would probably not Probably not make people happy. So yeah, Mount High Jaw Imposter. Yep. Okay, let's get to some another actually card that loses you the game. The Azurite Murloc. So although Shaman's Excavate cards are fine, you know, Digging Straight Down's pretty decent, Shroomscavate was pretty good, and Sir Finley is actually pretty good, the Azurite Murloc itself is terrible. 4 mana, 5/5 Elemental Murloc, Battlecry, transform all your other minions into ones that cost 3 more, keeping the original cost. Yeah, if you guys couldn't make the assumption, transforming all of your minions, every single one, is in your hand and deck into ones that cost 3 or more, especially when you have to build a deck, you know, around winning the game, is really bad. Really, 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 really bad. There are more minions in this game than spells. And, you know, even in the case of something, like, the reason Deck of Lunacy was so strong is because you could build only spells in your deck. You had hyper-specific spells because of a small spell school, or a small pool of cards because of the core set being introduced in Forge in the Barrens. And you had cards like Incanter's Flow, which would just discount your entire deck. That's why the Deck of Lunacy was a good card. Azurite Murloc, you have to play 4 other cards to get online. Then it's already not that good of a card, just in general, because it costs way more than Deck of Lunacy did. I mean, yeah, like post-nerf, Deck of Lunacy costs 4. Oh, it's the same. It's just such an unbelievably terrible card, the Azurite Murloc. Like, so unbelievably bad. You actively are just making your deck worse to play Excavate cards in Shaman. That's how bad the Murloc is. It's so... Why did they do this? Then we have Warlock. So I could have brought up like 100,000 different discard Warlock cards that are just bad. And like, yeah, they just like make your deck worse, right? If you tried to run them, right? But we have to talk about Blast Crystal Potion and Felguard. We have to talk about destroying your own mana crystals for a quote-unquote upside. Remember when I said like destroying mana crystals is bad in Surrender to Madness? Yeah, so destroying mana crystals is really bad. When Blast Crystal Potion came out, it was -1 mana on Assassinate to lose a mana crystal for the rest of the game. I mean, technically, it's only for like 6 turns, but it's still bad. Still bad to lose a mana crystal just to destroy a minion. Siphon Soul costs 4 now and heals you for 3. So great. And then Felguard, dude, it's a 3 mana 3/5 taunt demon that has Battlecry destroy one of your mana crystals. It is +2/+1 over Silverback Patriarch to lose a mana crystal. I don't know where to begin on this one. I really don't. And I think Blizzard themselves have realized that destroying your own mana crystals for an upside is really bad because they haven't done it ever since they printed Surrender to Madness. Yeah. Wow. I mean, I guess you could consider Celestial Alignment destroying all of your mana crystals, but that card also makes all your cards cost 1, so it's a little different. But destroying your mana crystals is just so bad. Mana crystals are really powerful. Being able to play more expensive cards is really, 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 really powerful. So having to destroy mana crystals has to be like, I think if you're destroying one mana crystal, the effect of the card has to at least be 3 mana more powerful than what the cost of the card is. Like, I don't know what else could be better, because destroying a mana crystal has to be significantly more powerful in the moment than just, I could have just played a more powerful card next turn, right? It has to be. Like, maybe 3 is like an arbitrary number because, like, okay, well, if you play a 1 mana card that destroys a mana crystal, it's not as big of a deal. Like, if it were, I don't know. I don't know what to think about these cards. They're just so unbelievably bad that I don't think there's any way to redeem them, and I just don't think they should ever try. Then we have Warrior. So, oh, Curseblade, Curseblade, Curseblade. So, although Curseblade did see some play by one exact player, I have to bring it up. So there's this guy who used to play the game. His name is Control. Big fan of his when he played the game, all that. He is like the god king of Pirate Warrior in Wild. No one else was able to play this shit like this guy. If you look up on YouTube, he'll have like his #1 video is like going 25-0 to hit like top I think it was like top 10 legend or some shit. It might not be top 10. It probably like top 100. Top 100 legend, like 25-0 on Pirate Warrior. Like something like disgusting, right? Like incredible win rate. Like disgusting win streak that like almost no one ever goes on, especially not in high legend, right? People do not go on 25 win streaks in high legend. This guy was like the GOAT of Pirate Warrior. Like everyone else would be struggling on the deck and he would just like dominate on it, right? So like he played Curse Blade in his Pirate Warrior to beat Big Priest. So I'm gonna count him as an outlier, but that, I mean, if you include him as an outlier, you know, with the Curse Blade and and Pirate Warrior, then this card's been horrible its entire existence. The 1 mana 2/3 weapon, double all damage your hero takes, or double all damage dealt to your hero for a 1 mana 2/3 weapon. Oh my lord, dude. Oh my lord. You get a 1 mana. So, this came out in League of Explorers. Whispers of the Old Gods did not come out long after League of Explorers, which gave you a 1 mana 1/1 that gives you a 1/3 weapon. So for -1 attack on the weapon, you get a 1/1 that will summon a Patches from your deck that, you know, came out again not long after, and then you could just play Upgrade on your weapon and get a 1 mana. I guess so, you probably have swung the first turn, so it would still be a 1 mana 2/3 weapon. To not take double damage. Taking double damage is so unbelievably bad. Every deck in the game can make use of you taking double damage. Every deck in the game. Bar none. They would love to deal double damage to you. Fucking Reno Shutterbox Shaman would love to send all their like infinite 3/3s because they have so many like 3/3s and like 2/4s and all that. They'd love to hit you in the face with that and just deal double damage so that they soften you up. This card is so terrible. Like, why is it not even that overstated for a weapon? A 1 mana 1/3 weapon is pretty common. Like, there are so many 1 mana 1/3 weapons. So you just gain +1 attack to take double damage? So awful. So awful, man. It's so crazy that this is a card that was actually printed in our real game. But yeah, that's gonna be it for me. I don't know. I wanted to make a funnier kind of video where I just had like a bunch of memes and I thought it was funny, so that's gonna be it. If you guys enjoyed, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Tell me what you think down below. I don't know. I just wanted to make a funnier kind of video because I wasn't doing too great my last few videos, so I just said fuck it, Weeball, we'll change it up a little bit. If you enjoyed, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.
Shadows are rising again!
Darker than they've ever been. As evil descends from the skies, the world cries out, how will we survive? Out of the hall of explorers, and up from the dusty tombs, they grab their whips and fedoras. These legends of the past know exactly